everybody. It is Melissa at Aromatic Chat, and I just want to thank you for joining us today. And we're going to be meeting my good friend Carol Scheidel. As with most of my aromatic friends, I met her through my professional organization, the Alliance of International Aromatherapists. But I think you're going to enjoy what she has to say because she's coming at aromatherapy from a different perspective than most of the people that I've interviewed so far. So I'm super excited to hear all the things she has to say and kind of get her take on how aromatherapy works. That's one of the things I love about aromatherapy is, yes, we're all using plant matter, but we come at it from a little bit different perspective, each one of us. So I do still have my purple hair today in our interview, so I decided to wear my manatee earrings because I'm feeling quite mermaidish. Anyway, help me welcome Carol into our room. Hey, Carol.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Very good, very good.
How's Dallas?
Rainy and stormy, and it's cooled off. You know, last Friday it was 106, and you know, good old Texas summer. And so now it is 75.
Oh my word, that's a cold front.
Yeah, you're going to see everybody with their jackets on.
I know. And for people who aren't from Texas,
yeah, they don't get it.
They don't get it. They really don't.
I'm trying to figure out this lighting thing.
I think you look great.
Okay. All right. So
That's
how are
cool.
you doing? How's the weather?
Well, we're in our rainy season now, so it rains every day, and sometimes it rains a lot every day. But, you know, we could get typhoons at this time of year, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right. And there was something that was in the far Pacific
Japan.
that they were really watching for. So Tom, my husband, did a disaster response to the Chuuk Islands.
Yes, you were telling me.
Through Guam to get to Chuuk. You know, Tom and I are both retired, and so doing my job now,
right.
I no longer rely on punching a time clock.
Right.
I love my life.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump in.
Right.
Tell us a little bit more about who you are and how did you come to where you are now with your aromatic journey?
Okay.
We've got all the time in the world.
Yeah. So I'm Carol Scheidel. I am the owner of R.J. Buckle Associates. It's an education and consulting, aromatherapy education consulting. We focus on the healthcare professional. And so I started my journey in 2002 when I met Dr. Jane Buckle at a conference in Tennessee. The hospital that I worked at had sent several of us to this conference because we were looking at including complementary integrated modalities within the healthcare system and trying to identify what is it that the public, our patients, would really want. And certainly aromatherapy was one of those things. We had meditation, we had guided imagery, we had healing touch, we did Qigong, we did Tai Chi, we did a lot of different things. And so I had a really strong interest in aromatherapy. And Jane Buckle was presenting at this conference. And so I went to her class that she did during the conference and then a post-conference class. And during one of the breaks, I asked her if she would ever consider coming to Texas to teach her clinical aromatherapy course for health professionals. And she's like, oh, yes, absolutely. I would love to. So that started my relationship and working with her. And in 2003, 2004, we hosted a class at Texas Health Fort Worth in Fort Worth, Texas. And we're able to, we started out with 30 people in the class. We ended up with 24. Jane came about every 3 months for a weekend. It was a 5-session class at that time. And we kind of launched our aromatherapy course from there. We had a very supportive chief nurse officer. So we didn't have to battle any uphill battles. We had a chief nurse officer who embraced aromatherapy. She had looked into it, we had looked into it, and determined that it was within the nursing scope of practice within Texas to be able to offer comfort measures through aromatherapy. And so when we wrote our policy, that patients, nurses, family members, anyone could ask for aromatherapy. We didn't have to have a physician's order, and actively launched our program in 2004, the end of 2004, the beginning of 2005, when we all graduated. We had about 10 nurses that had taken the class. And so all of those nurses who were involved in that class, I was one of those, started offering aromatherapy to patients for various different things. In the beginning, it was really simple things. It was, oh, you're nauseated? Well, let me put a drop of this mandarin on this cotton ball, and we put it in a little medicine cup and hand it to them and said, just smell this, see how that does. Or we'd put a drop of Levantula angustifolia on the cotton ball if they were really anxious. And we just put it in a cotton ball in a medicine cup, and put it at the bedside. Leave it out all night long, all day long. This is really before the personal nasal inhalers or sniffy sticks were available. Right. And so that was our modality to get it out to people. We did individual consults. So within our electronic medical record, we created a way for people to place orders. All of us who worked as aromatherapists all had other duties. Aromatherapy was something that was a passion for us, and it was just other duties as assigned. It was not our primary role in the hospital. I was clinical nurse ethicist for the hospital, so I had an admin role. A couple of the other folks who were through the course were also administrative people, so we had a little more flexibility to be able to get out and about because we weren't taking a patient load. But we did have staff nurses in the class, and so they really focused on helping people with aromatherapy in their unit. So every year, starting probably about 2007, we've offered an aromatherapy course at the hospital. So an instructor-led aromatherapy course, and we follow Dr. Buckle's model that she established for our course. And so out of that, then we've added, so people have come and gone and added, and then a few leave and a few come on board. So we don't have a huge number, but we do have a pretty active aromatherapy program. We've got a couple of departments at Texas Health Fort Worth who make personal nasal inhalers for specific purposes. One is the cath lab, cardiac cath lab, and they have a personal nasal inhaler that they will offer to patients who are really anxious or nervous. And then after post-procedural, if somebody has nausea, they have a different personal nasal inhaler that they have pre-made, and offer that to those patients to help them get through the process.
Well, so that sounds amazing.
It was just an incredible journey. And, you really don't know once you start on a path where it's going to lead you.
Right.
So in 2016, in 2015, Jane seriously started talking about wanting to leave, to retire. Right. And there were about 4 of us that were her primary instructors and really active. And we're all like, oh, no, you can never stop. So in January of 2016, I retired from Texas Health Fort Worth. I really didn't have a plan. My husband was working overseas, and I really wanted to spend a lot more time with him. And so I had used up most of my PTO traveling to see him and to take care of some other family business, that I was out of PTO time, and my work-home balance was really important for me. So I decided to take retirement at that point. And I did a kind of a 4 or 5 week world tour just for myself. I spent a week in London with Jane Buckle. And at that point she said, Carol, you're now available. I want you to take over this business. I want to sell it to you, and I want you to carry it on. Yes. I'm like going, really? You want me to do that?
Oh,
and
the mantle.
And so
the mantle.
Yeah, I was like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I'm going, really? You don't think you want so-and-so? You don't think you want, no, Carol, you are the person, and you are available to do it. And I'm like, well, I could be, I'm very interested. I didn't want to see the program go away because it was such a huge value for us at my hospital and for the other places that the course has been taught. So after a little bit of negotiation, I said, yes, I'll buy it. Okay, that's your price. Okay, that's fair price. Yes, I can do that. And then I spent a week in Ireland with one of Jane's other instructors, a colleague of mine. And then I went and spent 3 weeks in the Middle East which is where my husband was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so through all of that, it was like, oh, okay, I've just left my job. I've been gone for 5 weeks. What am I going to do?
Right.
So we set things in place for me to come on board as the senior director or the primary director, not really the senior director, because I always consider Jane as the founding director and certainly my role model. I started the process of incorporating in Texas, changing all the incorporation, changing all the business, all of the things that I had no clue of.
Right.
Thank heavens I have a really good accountant who helps people facilitate and start
process. Yes.
It is. And thank heaven, I mean, I didn't even know I had a really good person. Then by end of June, Jane fully retired and I assumed full responsibility of RJ Buckle. So I have responsibility for not only the aromatherapy part, but also the M technique, which is a very gentle touch technique that is just amazing in helping individuals calm, relax. When you don't even know you're stressed, if somebody does an M technique on you, you just kind of like turn into a puddle.
Right.
So yeah, your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate goes down, everything. So yeah. That's how I got to here from 2002, and then in 2016 taking over RJ Buckle.
Well, that's a journey. Wow.
Very much so.
Earlier on, you said you had when you found Dr. Buckle's course, you had a strong interest in aromatherapy. Where did that come from?
I have no idea.
Okay, awesome.
I think a lot of it is I had been on just a personal journey of learning different things. I learned Reiki. I'm a Reiki master. I learned guided imagery, healing touch. I went through the first level of healing touch. I didn't go beyond that. Qigong, did a 4-year sort of internship with a physician who is out of England who taught many modalities in integrative healing. So lots of things that were in there. And I really didn't know a lot about aromatherapy. And so my first real introduction to aromatherapy was through Jane Buckle's course. And of course, that is really set clinically. And so I didn't know there was a lot of other stuff.
Right.
I didn't know about lotions and potions and balms and things you can make for your face and all of those. I never learned that because the focus of the course was really truly clinical application. What can you do for the individual patient or the group of patients that are in a healthcare setting?
Right.
So yeah, I didn't makeup, all of those other kind of things, shampoos, perfumery. Oh my gosh. I had the opportunity to take a Jeannie Rose perfume course a couple of summers ago. Amazing. A whole different world opened up.
I know.
Yes. In fact, I have my little right here in front of me. Just a second. All my little, this was one perfume exercise that we did where you started with you just had 2 oils and you would do 9 drops of one and 1 of the other, and then you would build to the opposite and then smell each of those individual ones and which one is the one that goes, oh, that's what I really like. So perfuming was very very interesting to me. Not that I'm really not interested in becoming a perfumer, but it was just fascinating. Aromatherapy is so diverse.
Yes, we all come at it differently. Every single one of us approaches this amazing modality differently.
Yes.
And how amazing that you actually found Dr. Buckle's course in the beginning, because that's exactly where you were as a nurse and where you wanted to go.
Yeah, and I truly I believe in divine order. So in that, people come into our lives when we need them.
Right.
And sometimes we don't recognize it, but I certainly did. Being able to get her course going, to be able to be the host for it. And so out of that, I just by default became the lead aromatherapist at the hospital.
Right. So as the director of the Buckles courses now,
Uh-huh.
is that where your primary focus is, or are you still doing some clinical?
My primary focus is the course, making sure the course is up to date. I am just in the process of launching it as an online option for healthcare professionals. So yes, it's very exciting. That was actually one of my passions when I took over the course 4 years ago. The course does have nursing continuing education credits through the American Holistic Nurses Association. And so I wrote up the whole online course and submitted that for continuing education credits, because it's not exactly, it's the same material, it's presented in a different format.
Right.
And so they calculate the hours that a nurse can get for attending the course slightly differently than if you're sitting in a classroom.
Right.
Classroom is pretty easy, you know, you're there for 7 hours a day, not including breaks or lunch.
Right.
And that's easy. But when you put classes online and you present lectures and people have the opportunity to watch that, the hours measure a little differently.
Right.
So I've been working on that for truly the last 3 years after the first year of getting the course.
It takes
going.
time.
It does. And you know, and I think that I have a pretty good work-home balance. I don't make myself crazy with my workload. When I worked in the hospital, I was always thankful that I was really, truly in charge of my hours.
Mm-hmm.
The hospital I was on a salary. The hospital got plenty of my hours. But it was like, if there was home things to do, I was out of there. Home was really, truly the first priority in making sure family and kids and all of those kind of things. But they're all launched and doing great.
It's a beautiful place to be, right? Empty nest. So nice.
Yeah.
So a question about the online course. It's still to come. I understand it's not launched yet, but when it does launch, is it strictly for people in a clinical setting, or could a novice take a course?
So it is designed only for healthcare professionals, because, and also in-person course is the same. If somebody has had anatomy and physiology at the college level, then they can be accepted into the course. They may or may not be able to get certified. We do have a recognized certification, Clinical Aromatherapy practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So a certified clinical aromatherapy practitioner, CCAP, is recognized as RJ Buckles courses. And so the people who get that have the ability to be in an environment where they can make do something for patients, clients. And so we do restrict the course to healthcare professionals, somebody who's had a lot of aromatherapy experience, because we don't go into the basic anatomy and physiology. We review it quickly and we move on. So, and you know, there's some assumptions that you know some of your chemistry, even though we do a lot of review of the chemistry, but so we don't allow a novice non-healthcare professional to take the course.
Well, you got to have boundaries. Boundaries are very important.
So, and in fact, our course is not, it's not recognized at this point by either of the aromatherapy organizations in the United States. Part of it is because we don't teach balms and butters and lotions and potions, because that's not the setting we're in. There are some excellent people out there who really do an awesome job of teaching that.
And again, going back to the way that we all come at aromatherapy, it's all different. So you have a beautiful niche that you're working with.
Yes.
That's great. So what would you say is the biggest stumbling block for your courses right now?
Myself. because I need to be 3 or 4 of me
Right.
to get the things done. There's great new research that's out that needs to be incorporated into the course. You have to take care of this, you have to take care of that, keeping up all of the statistics, the numbers of people who've been through the course, the hours. So I am probably the biggest challenge, but of course it's mine to be. So
Right.
I absolutely love it.
Do you have a team?
I do have a team of instructors.
Okay.
Yes. And there are instructors that are M Technique instructors, and there are instructors that are what we call the Clinical Aromatherapy instructors.
Okay.
So right now we do have an online class that started in July, and so there's 4 other instructors that are participating in that course, not as students, but they are going along the process because this is the first time, and I don't have everything written up. So they're going along, and I hope within hopefully around the first of the year we'll be able to offer some other times. Our course is a mix of online self-study, self-paced, and required to be in class sessions. So about there's 4 modules. Each of the modules have a series of lectures that the students have to watch. They have reading that they need to do, and then additionally, about every other week, they need to spend 2 hours online as a cohort. So they all come together. And now that we're pretty well through the first module, their primary focus now is to present their case studies. And they get 40 different oils throughout the 4 modules. And so they have to present a single oil case study. And then we talk about blended studies.
Mm-hmm.
But they are required to turn in 40 single oil case studies. And the case studies are not, they're not real long. They're not having to write references. They're really having to take a history, write what they perceive as the problem, what oil are they going to use to treat it with, what is the application method, being very specific to write everything out. If it's topical, talking about the percentage, exactly how many drops did you put in what, and then what did the client rate as the problem, at using a visual analog scale, and then what's the immediate response, and then follow it down the road to however long is appropriate until it's gone, 2 or 3 days, 9 days. So
Right.
and so then they do each of those, and they do write those up.
So anybody who happens to watch this video, if you are not a healthcare worker, don't even try to sign up for this course because that's a lot of work. And as aromatherapists, we know there's a lot of work that goes into becoming an aromatherapist anyway, but at a clinical level, even more so.
Yes.
Even more so, because you're not just creating a blend for, your friend or creating a blend for a client. You're creating a blend for a patient who has a complex condition with a complex treatment plan, and you're working with a dog. So it's so many layers. So many layers.
Yeah, I would love to go see the patients in the hospital, especially when somebody was really anxious and they were just looking for their awe blend, because
Mm-hmm.
you could go in and you'd kind of pick out 6 or 7 oils. You'd take you'd never take the bottles into the room because you didn't want to contaminate the bottles.
Right.
None of them wanted to be Typhoid Mary. And so you take a smell, you take enough smell strips. And then you take those smell strips in, and you're holding all these smell strips so that they're out, not touching each other, and you're giving them to the patient, and you're asking that person to smell. And it always fascinated me. I mean, ylang ylang is I just think ylang ylang is like, ugh, it is one of my least favorites. But people would say, oh, I love this one.
Right.
Good. I'm so glad you do. That's great. Now smell these other ones. Now find 2 or 3 or 4 of them that go together. Well, and then put one, put this one in this finger and this one in this finger and this one, and then smell it this way. How
Mhm.
does that smell? So that I could get a sense as to, what are they,
Right.
what do they need?
Right.
Besides me deciding what they needed, it was just always a pleasure to have the patient say, yeah, and then they'd like not let go of those sticks. They're like, okay, you cannot have
These are
these sticks.
mine.
I'm going to keep these sticks. Okay,
I'm keeping
but
them until they don't smell anymore.
you can have that stick.
Yes.
You
I
know,
don't want it
and
back
then,
anyway.
yeah. And then somebody else in the family who's in the room, this in the day when you could actually have family in the room, they'd
Right.
be going, I'm not letting go of this stick. I'm keeping it. Okay, awesome.
Well, and that's, I volunteered for hospice with my service dog. And when we would walk into a room, I would let her decide who to go see because it's not always the patient that needs what we have to offer.
Yes, yes,
Many times it's the family who's struggling even more than the patient.
yes,
So,
yes. And we do, in the hospital setting, we do make something for any family member. We make it also for staff.
right.
So it's
That
not
too.
just it's not just for the patients. And then during COVID, the clinical aromatherapists at the hospital made over 1,000. They made about 1,200 personal nasal inhalers and passed them out to the staff.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
So,
So
as an aromatherapist, put your director hat aside and just put on your I love essential oil hat. If you had to choose 3 essential oils and those were the only ones you could have for the rest of your life,
what would they be?
what would they be?
So that's actually pretty easy because, I have what ifed, and if I were going to a desert island and I knew I wasn't going to get off, what 3 oils would I take? We would do that at the hospital periodically. And so helichrysum, yeah, Levantula angustifolia, because it's so skin regenerative, and then frankincense, Boswellia carterii, just because I really like it.
And I'm actually imagining those 3 together right now in a blend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, helichrysum I would use anytime I got a boo-boo. I 4 years ago fell and tripped on a cement driveway and went smack down onto the driveway and sliced my nose open. I ended up with 7 stitches there and 4 stitches on the side of my ear where I had kind of torn that. And all I had at the place where I was helichrysum hydrosol. I sprayed my face 4 or 5 times a day. And within a week, the only thing that I had left on my face was the road rash. Just a little bit of the scars from the road rash and the stitches that were still there.
Right.
But it was like the bruising was, absolutely gone. And so I hope and pray I never get put on an anticoagulant because that would just absolutely disappoint me. To be able to have to set that oil aside.
Right. Right.
So,
And it's just an amazing essential oil. And I know some people don't like the smell of it, but I love the smell of it too.
yeah, I used to not like tea tree, but tea tree is again one of my favorites. If I could take a 4th oil, I'd take tea tree.
I didn't say 4. I said 3.
Tea tree or Kunzia, they're all in the Melaleuca family, and that would also be okay.
Yes.
But yeah. So
that's fabulous.
I've thought about that before.
So, what's getting you really excited right now? Even in the midst of COVID, you're newly retired. You've newly taken on this big, exciting new adventure. But what's getting you excited right now?
So certainly the online aromatherapy course. It's been a dream for a long time, and to start to see it absolutely come together, it's beyond my wildest dreams. So, I sit here and think, oh my God, you retired and you just took on another job. What are you doing?
But is it really a job? I don't think it's a job.
No,
it's a passion. Totally different. Totally different.
Yes.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. So, more of a clinician, director, things like that, and self-care with aromatherapy wasn't even on your radar. Correct. When you first started. How about now?
Oh yeah. Somebody asked me one time, a student said, well, what oils do you use every day? I don't use oils every day. I don't. I use oils when I need them,
Right.
when I want them.
Right.
I use them for their specific therapeutic properties, and I share them with people, friends, family. Once in a while I'll get consulted from someone, and so I'll go through it with them if I'm the right person. If I'm not the right person, I'll find a clinical aromatherapist for them.
Right.
But I love what I do. I love having access to something that I know works and that I'm not tied to
Right.
the medicinal world, even though I'm a nurse through and through. Been a nurse for, oh my gosh, almost 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
which is scary. It's integrated for me.
Right.
It's not alternative. It's
Right.
working with the medical world.
Right. Well, I think discovering essential oils and aromatherapy through Dr. Buckle's course, and also being clinically minded to begin with, you came into this realm with that clinical mindset, where I think a lot of people come in through a sales mindset, which I think is where we get the "what do you use every day" question from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because people who sell essential oils want you to use them every day so that you'll run out and need to buy more. But as a clinician, it's more about, it's more about what do you need right now?
Right. Correct.
Instead of just a random everyday usage.
Yes.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to get to speak with you about everything that you're doing and the direction that you're headed. And I'm thrilled that Dr. Buckles chose you to pass for mantle too.
I was pretty honored.
I'm thrilled. Yeah, and you're going to do amazing things bringing this to the online realm. I know that online courses are all the rage right now.
Yes,
but to be able to dive into something new, but still maintaining that clinical background as a nurse, this is good. It could be life altering. And now you're not just. It's not like when Dr. Buckles had to come to you 5 times. You don't have to do that anymore with an online course. So that's really freeing, very exciting.
Yeah. Our current class, I have people from Tennessee, from Minnesota, from North Carolina, from here in Texas, and somebody from California. So we've got a variety of folks. And right now we're serving the United States. We've not offered the course outside the United States. But I've had some inquiries. So we'll see.
Right. So how would nurses and other practitioners find your course? How do they find you?
Yeah. So I have a website. It is rjbuckle.com. Pretty simple. You're not going to find the online course on there, but there is the Clinical Aromatherapy course, and the Clinical Aromatherapy instructor-led course and the online course teach the same information. And email is info@rjbuckle.com.
Okay. Are there any keywords that people would search to find you? Keywords? Okay.
I don't know how well. I don't.
That might be something to consider.
Right.
Just for the future of your course. Like, what keywords would people be searching for as a nurse? Like, I'm a nurse. I'm interested. How would I find your course over just a regular aromatherapy course?
Oh, sure. Yeah, certainly nursing, aromatherapy, education.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fabulous. I'm so excited for your new adventure. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Truly. Thanks. All right. Do you have any other words of wisdom you would like to leave our watchers with?
Learn my words of wisdom would be for any aromatherapist. Find a course, take it, and take other people's courses. Learn from others.
Yes.
The more people you learn from, the more you're going to know, because we all teach things just a little differently. So what RJ Buckles' guideline is is certainly might be different than the Tisserand Institute. It might be different than on Andrea Boucher's Aromahead. But it's okay, because this is not black and white science. This is not absolute. You know, one of the things I strongly recommend when somebody's looking for essential oils is that they look for batch specific oils, not oils that they can't get the GCMS, they can't for that batch.
Right.
And I describe it as, if you're okay with a Boda box wine, there's nothing wrong with that, or a wine that you get off the shelf that always tastes the same, or are you a connoisseur of wines and you get the varietal wines that are year specific, vintage wines?
Right.
Then that's what you want in the aromatherapy world, because I really believe that the environment and the plants really know what we need.
Right.
And so if I've had people say, oh, this lavender doesn't smell very good, it doesn't smell like my lavender. And I'm like going, so who's your lavender from? And they'll identify a large company. And I'll say, well, your lavender is adjusted so that it will smell the same each year. I like lavenders that change. I like essential oils that change.
Right.
I'm not looking for something that is exactly the same.
Right.
And so that's part of learning. Learn from a lot of different instructors. Learn from people who know aromatherapy. Please don't learn from your neighbor. Please don't learn from somebody who is just in the market to sell you essential oils, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's really not safe. And above all, please, please, please don't ingest it. Just don't drink it in the Kool-Aid. Don't drink it in your water. Don't swallow it. The long-term effects we're seeing are significant. So yeah, those are when I'm talking to somebody, you know, where you buy your oils is really up to you. I don't tell people where they have to buy their oils from. We do in our course, as part of the cost of the course, you have to buy your oils from
a specific supplier.
We sell them at cost to the students, and from 4 different independent distributors of essential oils. And then after that, you can certainly buy your oils where you want.
Right.
Right. Really look at, and don't buy people's blends. Make your own blend. Learn how to do that, because then you know exactly what's in it.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. That's amazing stuff. And learning from other people, I had a visual picture when you said that, of being in a rut, right? Like if I love my school and all the classes I take are from my school, I get into a rut, and I'm only experiencing the education and the oils that are within that rut, and totally ignoring everything outside.
Yeah. I have taken some amazing, absolutely amazing courses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've studied with Brianna Lewis. I've taken a couple of the Aromahead courses.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken Tisserand's courses. Lipid Lady, I'm trying to remember her name. She's out of Portland, Oregon. Oh my gosh. Let me just take a look here, because if you want to know about carrier oils, this is the go-to person.
Go-to lady.
So hang on, give me just chatter. Here we go. Susan M. Parker.
Okay.
Look up Susan M. Parker, and she has amazing information about carriers.
All right.
Spectacular. So.
Well, you were a wealth of information for us today, Carol.
I was so happy to be able to be here.
I appreciate you. And I hope maybe even through this interview process that other people will find the Buckle courses, and that your business will prosper.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you so much, Carol.
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Barbara Manatee. You are the one for me.